Hi, my name's Zoe and today I want to talk to you about Brandon Cronenberg. So, as many of you probably already know, Brandon Cronenberg is the son of David Cronenberg, who is the mastermind behind some of the greatest body horror films ever made, including The Fly, Videodrome, Scanners, and more. Like to speak about it too much. Brandon Cronenberg also took a route into body horror, and today I want to talk to you about two films of his that I absolutely adore to pieces. So Antiviral came out in 2012 and it features, it's starring Caleb Laundrie Jones. So if you don't know him, he's probably most notably known for his performance in 3 Billboards of Ebbing, Missouri. I think that's what it's called, and the film focuses on him as the protagonist, and he works in a clinic, and in the clinic what they do is they serve the celebrity obsessed society. So people can go into this clinic and they can have diseases from celebrities injected into them, and their most famous celebrity that they have is someone called Anna Guest, and she's this stunning, beautiful actress that everyone wants to, I guess, be near, have a part of, which is exactly what they can get at the clinic. What transpires from there is they're injecting people with these diseases, and Hannah Guest, she ends up getting this, I guess it's like an incurable virus disease which she dies from, and of course the world goes crazy, not only because they've lost Hannah Guest, but also because they want this disease, which again, it's very, very weird. It is a body horror film because there's a lot of gore, there's a lot of things that will really get under your skin. It makes me feel very, very squeamish, but I think the most important thing about Antiviral is how prevalent it is to today's society. It still feels like it's very, very important messaging. This came out in 2012, but I feel like even more so now, you know, with Instagram, with TikTok, with fucking Kardashians and God knows who else. I feel like a lot of the younger generation have just become so obsessed with celebrities and influencers and their culture, and I think what Cronenberg does in Antiviral is he really highlights that. Of course it's done to quite an extreme, let's say, and it's done in a very, very, very gruesome way, but it's so important, the messaging that he's putting out there. And to be honest, I can genuinely see that some people would go that far as to have a virus from a celebrity injected into them. You know, people are just obsessed with these people. They put them on pedestals and it consumes their life completely, and that is exactly what happens in Antiviral. And I understand that Antiviral is probably not going to be a film for everyone. It's quite a surreal film. It's got a very clinical feeling to it. There's a lot of white walls splattered with blood. It looks gorgeous. It's very stylistic, however I feel like it also has the substance there, which a lot of films, I think they find it hard to get style and substance. I'm looking at you, Giallo films, don't hate me. So Antiviral is just this incredible piece of filmmaking, which if you like body horror films and you also like body horror films that maybe have a bit more of a message to them, i.e. Videodrome, you can definitely see where Cronenberg got some of his ideas from, even though he says he didn't get any of his ideas from his dad, but we won't talk about that. So yeah, so Antiviral is just this incredible piece of filmmaking that has this incredible message. The performance by Caleb Laundrie Jones is so good. He has this very bizarre look about him in the film, which he almost looks diseased himself, and we find out that, you know, perhaps he is diseased, perhaps he's not. Antiviral is disturbing. It's very disturbing in its own right. I think as an extreme horror fan, it's probably one that you might enjoy. I think it's good for extreme horror fans. I also think it's good for body horror fans. It's got a good element of them both in there. And the way that the film transpires, it keeps you hooked the whole way through, because it's not quite as straightforward as it first seems when you start watching it. There are elements in there that kind of add up to this, kind of feels like a conspirator story happening in the background, that kind of comes to the forefront as we move through Antiviral. But yeah, honestly, it's one of my favourite films, and I've been raving about it since 2012. No one seemed to give a shit, but people are suddenly listening because Cronenberg has recently brought out a new film, which is the next one I'm going to talk about, and that is, of course, Possessor. So this is a 2020 film, at least in the UK. I know that a few of you are probably waiting till the end of November to be able to see this one, or perhaps even into 2021, depending on where you are in the world. But I would say wherever you are, whenever it's coming out, bump this one to the top of your list, because my God, is it an absolutely stunning piece of work by Cronenberg, which I think when you look at Antiviral, there was already a very big hint that he was going to go on and do even more incredible things. And the fact that his dad is David Cronenberg, well, I would have been disappointed, to be honest, if he wasn't making great films as well. I mean, he must have learned a trick or two from his father. So Possessor is starring Christopher Abbott and Andrea Riseborough as the two central characters. And what the film is about, again, body horror film, what it is about is Andrea Riseborough is playing a character called Voss, and Voss is an assassin. But she's not your regular kind of assassin, because things are done a little bit differently in a body horror film. Of course, what else would we expect? What happens is it's hard to explain how it happens, but they almost kind of transmit brainwaves between the assassin, Voss, and a host. So what they do is the consciousness of Voss can go into the host body and carry out the assassination, so that it's all done within the life of someone else, which means that they take the blame for it, which is kind of perfect way to get away with murder, right? And also it seems to be an incredible business. So Voss is inhabiting Christopher Abbott's character's body, and he's like a drug addict, low-level drug addict, and he's dating a rich man's daughter, and someone has hired Voss to get him to assassinate someone, and create this whole kind of conspiracy. And I don't want to go into too much detail around it, because I think it's part of the excitement around it is finding out about the intricacies of the characters and how they all build together in this revolving landscape around one another. So I'm not going to detail that too much, but what we see is essentially the battle between the two minds in one body, and it's done so beautifully. That's, again, like I said with Antiviral, it's not just style over substance, it's style combined with substance, which is, in my opinion, something very difficult to do. But I think Cronenberg, especially in Possessor, has absolutely nailed that. And just, honestly, Possessor is so gorgeous. I know I'm fangirling, I'm sorry, but it really is. And I think that, again, there's a lot of bigger messages in Possessor, and perhaps not everyone would agree with that, but I think there's a lot to say about the connection between the body and mind and how we feel within our own bodies. I also think the film talks a lot about gender identity, body dysmorphia, and quite big topics like that, because obviously we see Voss, who is a female, inside the body of Christopher Abbott's character, and basically what you see there is she has to come to terms with, of course, acting as someone else in their own body. She has to pick up the body language, the habits, the way he talks, which, you know, given the short time frame she has to watch and view this person, it seems like quite a difficult thing to do. I mean, you know, you think in a relationship there's absolutely small, probably, you know, kind of like personal jokes that you wouldn't be able to pick up on in such a short amount of time, and that's exactly what she has to do. She has to become someone else. And she is this female in a male's body trying to pretend to be him, to get used to who she is being. And I think, you know, it talks a lot about our gender identity and how we feel in our own bodies, because I think, you know, it's quite a difficult thing. And, you know, there's always that question, isn't there? Oh, what would you do if you were suddenly in the body of the opposite sex? And I think, and one thing I love that they do in Possessor is she, you know, when she gets in his body, she checks her cock, which, I mean, especially if I was in Christopher Abbott's body, but if I was in a male body, that would probably be one of the first things you do, because you have this, you know, connection with your sexual organs. I hate using that word, but your sexual organs, they're quite connected to you and supposedly your identity. So I think it's, you know, it raises a lot of questions around gender identity. And I think the other thing that it raises questions around, which I mentioned a minute ago, is body dysmorphia. Looking at ourselves in the mirror and perhaps seeing something completely different. And I'm not saying that necessarily has to be gender, because I think we're speaking about gender identity, but body dysmorphia, you know, I've struggled with body dysmorphia before, looking at myself and seeing an elephant when I'm not an elephant, not an actual elephant, but, you know, size wise, you get what I mean. And I think Possessor does a fantastic job at encompassing body dysmorphia, and how we often have a battle between what we see in the mirror then versus what our mind sees in the mirror versus the reality of us, what other people see. And I think that's really there throughout the whole framework of the film, this struggle with body dysmorphia. And I mean, there's so much to digest in Possessor, and, you know, if you haven't seen it, I'm going to highly recommend that you go away and watch it. And I'm not going to give anything away here, because I think it's a film that you absolutely must see, especially if you're a horror fan or a body horror fan, and if you also like kind of like psychological aspects when it comes to your horror. This has got it all in there. And I think another element of Possessor that I absolutely adore is how gory and violent it is. So I know a few people have said, oh, it's not as violent as I was expecting, but to be fair, it's not an extreme horror film. So I wouldn't go in expecting to see, you know, limbs hacked off, flying here, there and everywhere, visceral pulled out and slathered around the walls, because that's not what the film is about. But there are some incredibly violent and gory scenes in there, which are, they're done so well. The effects are by Dan Martin, and Dan Martin is probably, I say probably, I think he is the greatest special effects artist that is out there at the moment. He's worked on films Colour Out of Space, Lords of Chaos, and there's something in here, there's a hint in here to the guinea pig movies, Flowers of Flesh and Blood. So I was lucky enough to speak to him at the pub once and have a couple of beers with him, and he told me about this because he knew how much I loved Flowers of Flesh and Blood. And I'm not going to tell you what it is, so for those of you that are a fan of Flowers of Flesh and Blood, I'm going to say watch Possessor, see if you spot it. If you do watch it and you spot it, do let me know, because I was ecstatic when I spotted it, and I think it's just a great hint from Dan Martin of just, you know, a place where he's obviously pulled a lot of inspiration from when it comes to the amazing special effects that he puts in place. Again, in all of the films that he's worked on, fantastic special effects. They look so genuine, and I can't remember who said it, but someone said he is the master of stabbing. He just knows how to make a stabbing look real. Everything he does in Possessor. It just looks so real. So yeah, Possessor is, for me, I'm going to say it's probably one of the best films, if not, no, it is the best film I've seen in 2020 so far, and perhaps it might even be one of the best horror films I've seen in the last 10-20 years. I think it just hits the nail on the head with every kind of meaning that it has to say and the way that it's delivered. The pacing throughout is fantastic, the performances are nailed, and there's also enough twists in there that you constantly have something coming around where you're going, oh shit, I didn't think about that. And yet, like I said, you know, special effects, violence is beautifully done, and it just gets under your skin. So I've seen Possessor now, I think it's twice or 3 times, and it is a film that stays with me for such a long time. I remember the first time I watched it, it was about 3 days later, and I was in the shower thinking about Possessor. It really does stay with you, and it plays on your mind. It brings a lot of thoughts and feelings, whether they're good, they're bad, it doesn't matter. It just grows on you, and it just gets in your brain, which seems really quite so clever, considering the film is about getting other things, other people in your brain. Feels like Brandon Cronenberg is literally in my brain, you know, going on with Possessor constantly. So yeah, those are my 2 recommendations, Antiviral and Possessor. If you can find them, do give them a watch. I think Antiviral is available on Shudder UK, not sure where else. You can also, of course, you can buy physical media of Antiviral. And Possessor, I know that some of us in the UK have been lucky enough to see it at the BFI London Film Festival a few weeks ago, but for those of you that are waiting, it is coming to streaming services on 27th of November, so really soon. And like I said, put it to the top of your fucking list, get ready to watch it, because you are absolutely gonna love it. So thank you so much for watching. As usual, sorry that I talk like a million miles per hour. Keep on dropping comments. I know quite a few of you suggested some videos, so I am gonna, you know, I'm gonna get those out and ready for you. And I guess, you know, if you like the video, put a thumbs up. If you hated it, put a thumbs down. That's fine, you're still engaging. And if you do like the kind of content that I'm putting out, do make sure you subscribe. Also, follow me on all of my social media channels. Links are in the the notes section. And yeah, drop me a message. Would love to chat about horror.